Hello and welcome, fellow awesomeologists, to Awesomeology. I'm Sue.
And I'm Ben, and in this episode, we are going to fill you in on some exciting changes with the exclamation brand, how we got there, and where we go from here.
Yes, and we've been working on it a long time. I'm excited to talk about it. Can we do a little bit of housekeeping first, though?
Sure,
I hate to
please.
surprise you with housekeeping, but I decided just before we started recording that I wanted to do this. I don't, so this is the housekeeping. If you listen to the last episode, one of the co hosts was told by the other co host that she sounded fine. And she sounded like she had been gargling glass. And when I listened to it, it just so no big shocker. We do not record these are not live. We don't record these on the day they go out. So on the day we're recording this, the other one just dropped. And I
Mm,
was interested to see because I had lost my voice. I was
yeah.
interested to see how it sounded. And now I wanted to do this housekeeping and tell everyone if it sounds like I don't sound the same, you are correct. It is not an audio problem. It is a me problem. And
You're also not some android that we can modify your voice from episode to episode or anything. Not yet, anyway. That's
not
coming.
yet. That'll come. Yeah. So I wanted to get that out there. And especially because I feel like even now I'm not at 100%.
Yeah, I can, as someone who hears you pretty much on the daily, I can definitely still hear a little something, but you sound so much better than you did last time we recorded. And, I'm glad that you took advantage of this moment to do some housekeeping because I felt bad that when we recorded that episode, I didn't acknowledge it right up off the bat and tell our audience to give you a break if you sound like you just woke up or something because it wasn't that. You were just straight
It
up
was
sick.
both. Why not both?
Yeah, I mean, it could have been
¿Por qué
both
no
reasons.
los dos?
Yeah. Anyway, all is good. Glad you're feeling better, even if you still have a little twinge of vocal anomaly happening, but you're doing great.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting back on track.
Right.
Yes.
And
I
that feels
was
good, right? For real. Like,
no, yeah.
because knock on all the wood, I personally haven't been sick for a while, and I've been telling a few people how lucky I am about that because it is going around.
Yeah.
um, like our kids' school and everything like that. But we've just been pretty darn lucky. But I certainly am one to appreciate when you get sick, those first couple days after you start feeling normal again and you just feel great. Like, ugh, those are good days for sure.
Precious, precious moments in your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
You you need to not talk about the fact that you got to shut your mouth.
I'm just living
Do
on the
not, you are
edge.
jinxing yourself.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just putting those positive vibes out to the universe,
Okay.
and you know what? Do with me what you will.
Trying to manifest. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, good luck. I mean, your
Thanks.
wife's a teacher, and I'm sure she does not come home with
She's
every creepy
never around
crawly.
germs. Never.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. So here we are. Now we are today healthy and we can talk about our brand refresh. We've been working
Mhm.
on it for, it seems like, I mean, it's months.
Oh yeah.
Certainly it is months. Seems like forever. Um, and we are now at a point, again, because we do not record on the day that this comes out, in a little less than a week, we are hosting a launch event. Less than a week, let me clarify, less than a week from the day we're recording this. When you hear this, we will have had our launch event. So we have months of work we've been doing and not saying, at least not saying, quote unquote, publicly here.
Right.
A lot to catch you up on. So let's start with this. What were the factors that told you, Ben, that it was time to do a refresh?
Yeah.
Wait. What's the difference between a refresh and a rebrand?
Ooh, good question. Yeah, so I mean, I think their definition is up to interpretation or up to the situation for sure. But I guess the easiest way I would describe it, and there's a ton of flexibility in these descriptions or definitions. Rebrand is typically a bit more comprehensive, right? You're typically doing something like a full-fledged name change, maybe even not necessarily a name change, but a modification to your brand that's so significant that it's going to, involve more time, more resources, more costs to make these changes and things like that. Whereas a refresh, some of those core elements aren't changing, right? So your name isn't changing, maybe even, like color scheme and things like that aren't changing, but you're taking an opportunity to bring certain visual elements of the brand, into current times, or and it's beyond look and feel and stuff too. It could, your brand voice could be a part of that. Basically, every part of the brand could still be a part of a refresh where it's getting just a little bit of a tweak, a little bit of an update. And I kind of feel like ours is somewhere right in between. I mean, certainly maybe more on the refresh side, which is what we've been calling it. And we aren't experiencing any of those big changes. We're not changing our name. We're not, going full-fledged change. Actually, if you were to take our logo and convert it to black and white, the before and the after will be darn near unnoticeable. The size of our icon changes just a tiny bit, but otherwise, like the font's not changing,
Hmm.
stuff like that. Um, so using our own project here as an example, we definitely are more of a refresh than a rebrand. So, um, anything you want to add to my descriptions there?
I think you nailed it. I think uh, I think what we did, even you mentioned if you take the two logos, our old logo, our new logo, I actually think that some of the things that we did were so subtle that if you are not a part of our team, you might not. If we just showed you the logo now,
Mhm.
you might have. Are you familiar with the term Mandela effect? You might look at it and go,
Oh
"Isn't
yeah,
that always how it was?"
right. Yeah, yeah,
and
absolutely.
so I think that made it an interesting project to know that we it is a significant change, really,
Oh, for
but
sure.
it's not as publicly noticeable.
If you're talking exclusively about the logo, and I think that that's actually a really nice segue to a maybe more important point of this whole thing, and brings us right back to something we talk about often, which is the fact that your brand is a heck of a lot more than your logo. Because if
Right.
you're looking at the logo, like yes, to everything you just said, like not a lot of change. Some folks are probably like, "Isn't that how it always was?" Um, Even though, of course, to us, the people that are super close to it, and probably some of our long-term clients and partners and things like that, they definitely would notice it. Um, but if you look at that as a part of everything else that we do, including our
Hmm.
website, our marketing, our collateral, all of that, then it's a very obvious change. The new color scheme is more evident. A lot of the new visuals
Hmm.
that we brought into it are a lot more evident, which we'll talk about all that as we go on here. But um, I think, that's maybe a nice way to put a button on these definitions or descriptions of a refresh and versus a rebrand is that even though one might sound easier because it's not a name change and all that kind of stuff, it's still not easy because
Right.
you're all of the elements that go into your brand go so much further than your logo, you know?
Hmm. Very good point. So
Yeah.
now, why? Why did we do this? What were the
Yeah.
factors that led us to do this refresh?
Yeah. If I can put the why into two big buckets, I would say time and feedback would be the two. And maybe I'll add a third. I think I was going to batch this into the feedback bucket, but I'll call the third accessibility slash usability.
Okay. You
So
can have three buckets. Have as many as you want.
no, I have to have that slash in there. There cannot be more than three buckets.
Okay,
I've
fine.
only got two hands, and I don't know where the third
Okay.
one's around my neck or something. But anyway, um, so time, right? So we've been in
Hmm.
existence since 2018. We developed the brand really in 2017 or, the end part of 2017. So, I mean, it's been 8 years. Now, I'm not saying that a company needs to update their logo or look and feel and do a refresh every 8 years, but it's been long enough for us for
Mhm.
sure. And, the scope and focus of our organization has changed a lot too. So, um, that's I think a contributing factor to the time aspect of the why behind this whole thing too. A lot's changed in those 7, 8 years. So there's just some extra purpose in giving us a little bit of a refresh. We went from a more comprehensive, cross-functional organization with a whole lot of other services beyond marketing and creative work in it to now, that being our focus. We're really positioned now as a creative marketing agency. Um, so that I guess that's the brief version of the time aspect of why make this change. Feedback. We were hearing things from our leadership, our board, even some clients and prospects that told us it might be time to give this a look. Most notably, maybe being just people seeing our name in isolation amongst other organizations and partners, and just straight up like not knowing what we do. And I think that that's something that's just
Mhm.
really important to acknowledge as a business that's trying to grow. Now our name hasn't changed and things like that, but we've added some elements to our to the refresh that gives us some opportunities to more clearly show people what we do by just adding some of our services alongside our logo, which everybody's going to get to see all this stuff if you're listening and curious. Um, so yeah, that feedback from leadership, our board, our clients, prospects, partners, and I suppose people on our team too. That's
Mhm.
definitely feedback that kind of inspired the change because there were certain times when our logo was difficult to use, the previous version of it, being,
Mhm.
you know, our logo is still full color, but it's a much simpler color scheme. Um, it was definitely more complex in the previous version. And that just can be difficult to use in some applications. And that's a nice segue to the third bucket of accessibility and usability. Some of those colors weren't really vetted well to be used in places where contrast is super important, especially thinking of accessibility from like a, ADA and
Mhm.
inclusivity sort of standpoint, making sure that people that maybe have a little trouble seeing or, you know, um, semi colorblind or anything like that. It was important for us to make changes so that we could get over those obstacles. But then, even as simple as, a full color version of the logo being used on a certain background color or printed in a certain way, embroidered in a certain way, there were certain elements of the logo that just straight up got lost, So, as much as, I mean, it's so interesting because now that we have gone through the process, identified all the things that we wanted to fix them, and have real stuff out in the world, like you can't help but like love the new look and kind of hate the old look. But it's interesting how quickly you can forget that like that was an award-winning design at one point in
Mhm.
time, and we got a ton of positive feedback about the look and feel. When we were first kind of introduced to the world, and even though it certainly had its problems and its limitations, it was still overall a really strong look and got a lot of great feedback and results as we were going. But considering all those factors, the time, the feedback, usability, and all of that, some changes have been made, and we'll get into the process pretty soon. But anything else about the why that you were a part of those early conversations too? That
Mhm.
anything about the why that you think I missed?
I don't necessarily think you missed it because you do number 1, we can only have 3 buckets apparently.
That's right.
And I don't know what I maybe personal maybe this fits in the feedback bucket. Um, but I think for me there was uh a certain je ne sais quoi. No. A certain emotional I ha- listen, I don't want to overblow it, but I think it would be accurate to say there's a certain amount of emotional baggage, and I think for a good reason, because I believe as we went into creating the original version of this LLC, the QSO,
Mhm.
we did everything. We created that first version of the brand with such intentionality. And as time went on and things changed and our direction changed and services sort of peeled away, we were dragging it along. And I felt like I spent a lot of time justifying things because we hadn't changed them. It wasn't who we were. I think, and I am sure that we will talk a little bit about the website because that was a big part of this project too. But that is a good example of somewhere that we had built that with such intentionality, and it became an albatross around our neck to try and figure out how we take something that was basically built for one business. Same with the brand, it was built for a different business, really.
Right. Right.
And we tried to make it work, and that just became exhausting, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
So I think, even minus the feedback from other people, the combination of the time and the toll, like I said, I it sounds overblown, but man, you look at this stuff every single day. You spend
Yeah.
time dealing with this stuff. You mentioned the some of the difficulties with the logo. The only reason that worked is because we committed to it.
Yeah.
If it had been another client, we would have said, "No, you're going to be screwing around with that.
Yeah.
You're not going
Right.
to like that in 2 years."
Yeah.
And it's just going to be a lot of screwing around. But it was us, and we committed to it.
Right.
And we knew what work we were going to have to do. Certainly, even if we missed it the first time, once it started coming up
Hmm.
and seeing, some of the extra fiddling that we needed to do, we committed to it.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, but doing what we've done and making some of the changes that we made, we can set all of that down. I just think it is a good lesson if people are thinking about, yes, yes, this is hard work. Yes, it is. And we'll talk about some of the hard work we did. And if you are feeling the way we were at the beginning of this process, it's a really good chance that that hard work is going to be worth it.
Right. Yeah. After hearing you talk, I will allow a fourth bucket because I think it's a big enough one, just like business change being a part
Hmm.
of the why. I mean, it's a really, really great point in that the initial iteration or version of our logo and brand and look and feel and language and all of that was created for a completely different business than what we're running and operating today. So I mean, that's like I mean, and I think that there's other real life examples of brands changing and being updated because of changes to their model and their scope. I mean, even one that maybe like well, no, I think the visual elements are quite significant actually. Like, and of course, I'm a Apple geek, so I'll naturally go to them as an example. But I mean, you look at, how their look has evolved over time. Part of that certainly is because they're not just a computer company anymore.
Hmm.
I mean, and they needed a brand that was a little bit more adaptable to the different lines of work that they're in, whether it's, new products like the iPhone and iPad and headphones and all that kind of stuff, all the way to digital services like Apple Music and Apple Arcade and things like that. Now their much more simplified look is just so much easier to be applied depending on, whichever line of business that Apple's in that you're talking about, you know. So, and I think I don't want to compare what we've done to Apple or anything by any means, but um, as we've changed both by like focusing in on marketing and creative marketing, by doing that, we've also gained a clearer understanding of who we are, what we do, what we're good at. And the visual side of our brand is also, I think, by simplifying it, it's become more adaptable to
Hmm.
the different kind of work that we'll do as well. And, you know, will just be easier to be applied in different ways. And when we do continue to grow and evolve and a new line of work pops up or something, at least our look and feel in the brand won't be a limitation to doing that. Or we're not going to feel like, oh, well, we're doing something new now. That means we have to change everything again.
Hmm.
It'll just be adapted into that new line of work, which I don't know what that is. We won't know until we get there. But I think that we really set ourselves up for that next stage in our growth too.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Well, and I can't stress enough that the mindfulness we put into our original brand was just as significant. And I think
Yeah.
the the hallmark of what we have done both times is looked at who the business is and create a brand that reflects that.
Mhm.
Um, we had a necessity when we had multiple lines of business that were not marketing. You know, it was just necessary the way
Mhm.
that we did it and the way that we looked at it. And um, now the biggest thing I think our brand refresh has done is reflect the people who are creating this business
Right.
in a more focused way.
Yeah.
But enough preamble. Let's talk about how we got there because we could talk about this
Okay.
part forever.
Yeah.
So let's talk about our process. How did we get to where we were? So we already mentioned that there was feedback, and that feedback from some people came uh, prior to the decision to think about it.
Mhm.
Maybe it was something that was simmering, but we had not made a formal agreement that we were going to really look at that feedback. We
Right.
I just accepted it and said, "Okay, that's good to know."
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, the positives and the negatives of that feedback too, you know,
Mhm.
maybe people advocating for change or to not.
Right.
Because, you know, we certainly got some feedback along the way that people loved the brightness, the color, the vibrancy, you know, and I think that that is part of the reason why you know, we're talking about how people that maybe aren't familiar with us or are familiar with us on a lower level might not notice the difference significantly. We definitely kept some vibrancy. We kept, you know,
Hmm.
the color and things like that. But if you compare the two side by side and you understand the work that went into it, you definitely can see the significant difference. So,
Right.
but yeah, it started with that feedback, and then you know, really kind of doing a lot of like looking in the mirror, you know, evaluating the current brand, getting that feedback from our community, our clients, our prospects, ourselves, right? Like our team, the
Hmm.
people that interact with it every day, and then you know our leadership board buy-in was really important. So you know they were a part of that evaluation process too. I suppose we should talk a little bit about what went into that, and I guess that is a segue to research and starting to shape the vision for what the new brand would be.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I'm looking at your notes, and I logically understand this is the process we used, but I am trying to remember every little piece we did and plug it in where, where it was.
Yeah,
Um,
good luck.
yeah, thanks. Thanks. Because I think we started um, with surveys.
Mhm.
Surveyed the
Yeah, it
board.
was one of the earlier steps
Yeah.
for sure.
We surveyed the board. We surveyed clients
Yep.
um, and simplicity. We surveyed simplicity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all coming back to me now, buddy. I got it.
Yeah.
Um, and it was it was interesting to get some of the feedback that we got. Some of it, I think, just agreed with how we were sort of feeling or confirmed for us if we were a little bit on the fence,
Yeah.
that what we were thinking was true. I'm trying to think if there was anything in that survey. So when I say survey, uh, online form, super simple. The public version of that survey was pretty much the same. And between between our clients and our board, there were just a couple other questions,
Yeah.
money questions. I think specifically were the things that we added for the board, which is an important
Yep.
thing to talk about. So to really, my goal behind the money questions when we surveyed the board was really to make sure that as they were thinking about how profoundly do you want us to change things, that they were also thinking about how much money are you willing to approve to make those
Right.
changes, because you the answers to those two questions can't be at odds for us to move forward. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not without limiting, our work,
right.
so yeah. Yeah. We also took advantage during that survey and research phase to really make sure that the questions that we were asking were more about they that they weren't limited to just the visual aspects of the brand. We
Right.
asked questions about, awareness of who we are, what we do,
Mhm.
and that those few audiences that you mentioned, clients, simplicity, our board. Yeah, I think it was important to ask those questions to all of those folks because we know, obviously our board, the people that are meeting with us monthly and familiar with our operations and things like that, um, they're going to have a different level of awareness or a different kind of awareness, at least, of
Mhm.
who we are and what we do. And you say the same thing for each audience too. So we really took advantage of the moment to learn a little bit about, the awareness of ourselves as an organization. And I think not only is that like just helpful information to gain and take advantage of the moment where we're asking people questions, just to know for knowing's sake, but also because it should inform the work of the refresh, right?
Mhm.
If what we learn is something like, yeah, people don't know what we do,
Right.
or anything
That
significant
research
like
phase
that,
is
well, we
so
know that that's got
important,
to be a
so
part of the
crucial, and just
consideration
make
for,
sure that you're
maybe how
asking
the logo looks
the
or what's
questions that
included with it, or
will
get you to
how
the best
the
information
website
to
needs
help
to
you
be
do your
redesigned,
best work.
whatever,
And
right?
that doesn't
So,
always mean, I
what
think if
color do you
that's
like? Do you like
something
this
that
kind of
if we
font or
were,
that?
doing
What
this work for a
design
client
trends
or
are
if
you
anyone
into
was asking
nowadays?
us,
What's
it's
like
so
one of
much
the
more
most
than look and
valuable
feel and
steps in the
design
process
that, we got to make sure we take advantage of. That research phase is so important, so
Mhm.
crucial, and just make sure that you're asking the questions that will get you to the best information to help you do your best work. And that doesn't always mean, what color do you like? Do you like this kind of font or that? What
Mhm.
design trends are you into nowadays? It's so much more than look and feel and design. And if you're not asking those questions, you're missing out. Plain and simple.
Mhm. Right. Um, because at the core of the look, the feel, the design, the voice is, again, coming back to that idea of who is your business.
Right.
And you can, when everyone is on the same page with who your business is and how you want people to see you, some of those things can evolve as the business evolves, and it can still be, you know it it just is so important. I think I am over explaining how important I think it is
Yeah.
to know who you are,
Right.
to know what you're trying to do, you
Yeah.
know um and I think the nice thing was in that process, um we didn't have a lot of disagreement on who we were,
Right.
uh which I think that was a thing, honestly, I was afraid of from the board, specifically to hear from the board,
Mm.
that if we had not been aligned
Yeah.
fairly well, Obviously, we are a team. And so what we are going to do to get things done is different from what the board is going to do to get things done. So,
As it should be.
as it should be, that's the point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I I felt pretty gratified that there wasn't a lot of fight that we had to do.
Yeah.
And there were some things that as that feedback was coming in, we could make really rapid changes to try some things
Hmm.
that were low stakes. I mean, I'm thinking specifically about some social media stuff that we like immediately could try,
Yeah.
which is a great place to test that stuff, even as you're going through a process like this
Yeah.
to see uh, how people are actually reacting and
Right.
what you're capable of,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. So something that's not in the notes, but I think was, I don't think it, I'm certain was part of our process was a little bit of testing early on too,
Mhm.
right? Um, but then I suppose we should keep moving. Yeah.
We should probably.
As well, we'll do our best to keep us moving through the process because we're on what step 2 of 8.
Yeah.
Uh, but what I think is I'll just take this moment to acknowledge, um, that this is just a preview of like the size and scope of a project like this. Every
Mhm.
step that we just talked about, we could make our own podcast episode talking about just the
Right.
evaluation phase, just the research phase, just what's next, which is really starting to create the vision and start to explore ideas for the look and feel, and do some internal testing with ourselves and our team, and some external
Mhm.
testing with our audiences too. I mean, we could spend hours talking about every single step of this thing, but we're not going to do that. We're going to talk about what's next, which was one of the funnest parts for me, for sure. And I think for all of our team, as a group of creatives, whether we're all graphic designers or not, we're creative people, and a lot of our work is certainly creative. So, um, this is where we got to dig in and talk about color, talk about
Mhm.
typography, build our vision board for what things were going to look like. And um, you know, not every organization is going to have the resources that we have on our team to do this kind of work all on our own and do it internally. That's why I suppose you hire someone like us to help you with it, which, whether it's a creative agency or even a freelancer, a facilitator, someone to help you get through it and keep things moving. If you're an organization that doesn't have those resources, that outside help, I really think is crucial. When you're talking about brand, the dedication to those resources to make sure you're doing your best work there and making sound decisions that set you up for the future is really important. And I think that it really showed in this part of the process where we, each of us brought our own ideas for things that we liked and saw out in the world,
Mhm.
and things that could inform our look and feel and color scheme and all of that. And then the practical considerations too, like if we were to change our typography, what does that mean for how the new website looks, for updates that aren't going to be optional, like
Mhm.
signage and things like that. Every single decision could impact dollars really
Right.
quickly and easily, if you're not giving them good consideration. So I specifically what I'm picturing as I'm talking about all of these things that we did is the day during Plantopia, or our mid-year planning. So Plantopia, if you haven't listened to that episode yet, is our annual planning day. And then we do a mid-year kind of mini version of it as well. So I don't remember if we did it at mid-year or at our full-fledged Plantopia, but um, spent some time bringing all this stuff together, and helping take the first steps in building our vision board and informing our designers and the whole
Mhm.
team on what things would look like. And that was cool because, you got to kind of see everybody's personality come through. You got to see everybody's preferences come through.
Mhm.
And then we had to figure it all out, through a very democratic process of uh, voting with stickers and having
Mhm.
good conversation, making the case for our own preferences, and raising important questions like, well, if we do this, then that's going to mean we have to change all this other stuff, or it's going to cost that. So that was the time to have those conversations too, and kind of an interesting intersection of the artistic creative side and then like the practical execution side too.
Yeah. Yeah. And just let me call it out. You pointed out not everyone on the team is a graphic designer. And it was really, I loved those exercises because it was really intentional. It would be easy for a group of graphic designers to say, you just don't worry about this. We're going to show you
Yeah.
some things.
Yeah.
And you, the non graphic designer, just, thumbs up, thumbs down, or shut
Mhm.
up because you're not a graphic designer. But
Yeah.
uh, Kylie from our team was tasked with developing how we would put together that vision board and collect all that information. And she did an excellent job.
Yeah.
And everyone on the team, including myself, a non graphic designer, brought in the same amount of influence. So we had the same, number. It was a precise number of fonts and colors and, that we each brought in. So no one no one really had outsized influence on what it was. No one could everybody had an opportunity to discuss it. And I think we're really blessed because we hope we'll continue to grow, and it's not going to be forever that our team is the size that we could do something exactly like that.
Right.
Um, but a team of 7 people, everyone was able to offer feedback. I think it's a good example for how you can do that.
Yeah.
And I anticipate that the benefit of that will be, we're early in this process. We've started using that brand refresh, but newly. Um, I think that what we'll see is the buy-in is just better.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because everybody feels an ownership to it. Right.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's important to acknowledge. I mean, every single step is significant, but the um, inclusivity of this step, I think, was really important. It really reminds me a lot of like the strategic planning process, making sure that there's representation
Mhm.
at the table, that it's not just the C-suite. And yeah, as organizations get big, there's not enough room for everyone at the table. But, how can you do your best to make sure that as many people have a voice and the folks that are at the table are representing their function, their department, their
Right.
teams as good as possible. And we took advantage of having a small team to be able to do that in a really comprehensive way. And I'm just gonna um, go on a little bit of a tangent here to just kind of echo the point before about how if you don't have these resources in house, the use of a partner is really important. And we have a real example of where we were hired to help with uh, a new logo, a refresh for a client really early on. I'm not going to name them, so if you don't remember who this is, I'll remind you after we're done recording. But um, they wound up not choosing our work, and not only did they not choose our work, they chose not to change their logo. They chose to
Mhm.
not make a change, at least for a while. I think they've made a change since, but um, part of the outcome of our work for them was to show them that, like, yeah, you know what? Actually, right now we're pretty good. Like the
Mm.
logo that we have now, the look and feel that we have now is pretty solid. So just by seeing some new ideas, seeing your name or your brand in a different way might actually tell you, no thanks, not quite yet. And I share this example because I am very confident and genuinely believe that our work was good, like what we
Mhm.
created was good. But it was just enough to tell them, yep, not now, or not in this way. And really make them consider, like, okay, if we were to choose one of these concepts, like, let's really think about everything else that needs to change, because it is more than the logo.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I do remember that.
yeah.
And I think that actually it's a little bit ballsy because it's not like they didn't have to pay. And
Yeah.
it was us, and I think it was another, they had another option too, right? Another agency?
Yeah, I think that they started with another agency, weren't totally in love or bought into those concepts. I don't mean to speak for them, but I think that part of their feeling was like, just don't like how this stuff turned out.
Hmm.
So it's not that we're not going to keep doing this. It's not that we're not going to change our logo or refresh, but we just don't like these concepts. And then seeing additional concepts from us, from another agency, I think
Hmm.
just even, you know, like cured their decision
Right.
that, yeah, just now is not the time,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And,
but
I don't want to openly advocate for people to spend money and then not use it, but that could have been the absolute best investment in money at that moment
for sure.
for that
Yeah,
client.
absolutely. Yeah.
So don't, if you go down this road, don't feel like trust your gut. If
Mhm.
don't do it, don't find yourself, painted in a corner and deciding you have to make a move,
Right.
if it doesn't feel right.
Yeah. And all the more reason for these initial steps that we're talking about to be taken, to be done well, because
Right.
at any of these steps along the way, you could realize, that it's time to pull the ripcord,
Yeah.
even if it's cost you a bit of money to get there.
Right. Right. But let's move. Should we move on to the next step, boy?
We should.
We're really making a meal out of this.
Yeah.
The next step was we got all of that together. We got our initial ideas, and we pitched it to the board
Yeah.
via video.
Yep.
Each one
Yeah.
of us did a little bit of that
Mhm.
video, which
Right.
was a fun experience, I think, for the team.
Yeah. Fun, anxiety inducing,
Both. Why not?
state of
Again,
the
why
time.
not both?
Yeah. But no, I mean, a cool opportunity for Kylie, who did, a lot of the design work. A cool opportunity for you as, our brand champion and the leader of the creative team. And obviously a cool opportunity for me to show the work of the whole team,
Right.
There's as the like it, I don't want the ego to show, but as the face of the company, one of my biggest challenges is to make sure that I'm giving credit where credit is due and giving people opportunities to take credit for the work that they're doing,
Hmm.
take and credit and ownership of it. And this was just a really cool opportunity for me to introduce the project, give them an update as to where we were at, and then say, and here's two people that are going to show you all the awesome work that's been done. And you guys both did great. And I think it was a cool opportunity for both of you, and a cool opportunity for the board to hear from somebody other than me, which is
Hmm.
something we need to do more of. But
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah.
this is a key moment to, make sure the buy-in's still there, make sure we're going the right direction, provide some. I think at this point, when we pitched it to the board, we had a pretty darn solid idea with where we were going. We didn't present a whole lot of options or anything like that.
Hmm.
This could be a moment where, if, depending on the project, depending on the scope of the change, maybe you are presenting a few concepts and you're trying to get a gauge or a feel for which one gets preference. But for ours, we were pretty darn set and pretty confident. And I don't want to say, make it sound like, well, here, board, this is what we're doing. We were definitely still open to, their feedback and stuff, but things were pretty darn set at this point for us. And I
Hmm.
think that at least part of it is because we're the internal team creating this work too. It's not like we were relying on a partner for it. So,
Right.
yeah,
And it is, it's something to dwell on for just a minute that uh what I think you did well in that, and do pretty often, even if maybe some days you feel like you don't, um was to keep the board functioning at the board level with
sure.
that.
Right.
They're we're a marketing team, man.
Yeah.
The board doesn't need to do our marketing.
Right. Right.
That's not, there are some people who definitely couldn't uh could fill any role on our team and they would be totally capable of doing it. But they're here for oversight.
Right.
They have to, you know, they have to serve that function and put on that hat when they're
Mhm.
in their board role. And so managing that and being able to say, here's what we're thinking, this is what our plan is,
Yeah.
isn't that cool? I'm
Yeah.
sure that's not what exactly how we did
That's how we
it.
ended the pitch.
Yeah.
Cool, right?
And then drop the mic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. And positive,
Yeah.
positive experience.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
anything
So
that was there anything in that gave you pause or I don't know, kept you up at night?
no, no. And in fact, I think it's, a small example of something that happens oftentimes and in other ways where, you know, you own a thing or you have, final say in something or the control over it. And that feels good in one way, but sometimes it feels as good, if not better, to give all that up and give it to other people, the people that should be doing the work, right? So,
Yeah.
um, the I, I wasn't concerned. It certainly wasn't keeping me up at night. That I had pretty minimal um, work in the actual design process, some
Mm-hmm.
of the final decisions of color and look and feel. Of course, I had plenty of review opportunity and approval opportunity along the way, but I was just really confident along the way that I have a great team that was working on it, and that was all the more reason to make sure that you had an opportunity to present it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of it all, like I say, it would have felt great to do all of this on my own, at my own desk and on my own computer and all of that and pitch my own ideas. But it sure as heck felt a lot better to know that we did this as a team and that it was
Mm-hmm.
pitched by the team. And at the end of the day, I spent less time on it. I could focus on what I should be focusing on so you all could do the creative work. So
Right.
yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure there were some things that popped up every now and then where I was like, are we sure about this? Or, whatever. I'm sure that, there was some moments of pause along the way, but nothing so significant that I would have done it any other way, looking back on it.
Mm. Good to
Yeah.
know.
But yeah, overall positive for sure. Good vibes and feelings from everyone along the way. It's so much so that we were happy to move right into our next step, which was starting to update stuff and, really we had brand guidelines that existed, but this was a cool opportunity to really enhance them. Of course, make all the relevant updates, but add more definition, add more
Mm-hmm.
clarity. And this is super timely. Oh, and you haven't been back in the office to see them. We got printed versions of our brand guidelines and they just showed up yesterday. You're going to love it. And I can say this on the recording because it's coming out after the refresh event, which will be people's first opportunity to see it, which is maybe one surprise about that event that people don't know about yet. We'll have copies of it there for people to see because it really is. I mean, they're brand guidelines for sure. We talk about
Mm-hmm.
color and font and all that stuff in there, but it really is beyond the functional aspects of our brand like color and font and all that. We our values are in there,
Mm-hmm.
some great examples of how we bring it all together. So I can't say anymore. People just have to see them. They'll be on our website too, so you can see a digital copy of them, but the physical books themselves look really awesome too. So
The last time I was looking at that, probably the very last proof that I saw before we said it was done, uh, I realized how happy it made me. There's a picture in there when you talk about bringing it all together. There is a picture in there that I took with my cell phone at my desk at home. And the fact that I even told Kylie, it makes me feel so good to see something like that. It was a picture I took for a blog
mhm.
because we have an image on a blog
Yeah.
and I needed a damn image and I could not find the thing. Um, but it felt so good to see, especially here's me being selfish. Here's my ego. Um, because so much of the work we do, I influence and I don't necessarily direct design, but I definitely influence design. I
Sure.
definitely, so much of it is someone else's work
Yeah.
that people see.
Yeah.
Um, and that felt very special to see something that was work that I did.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, and the fact that it is in our brand guidelines document makes it even more special of an example, and really kind of a use case of
Mm,
a strong brand and strong brand guidelines that someone like yourself, a non-designer, can have a comprehensive enough understanding of our brand and the look that we're going for that with your cell phone in, I don't know if I want to call it an emergency, but in a pinch where you couldn't find what you needed elsewhere, you created what needed to be created, and you had
mhm.
a tool and an understanding of our brand in place to be able to do that. And that's exactly why the research, the time,
Right,
the
right.
vision, everything else that we've talked about so far to this point is so important, because now you're activating a whole organization, every person in the organization to be an advocate of a creator
Mhm.
of the delivery vehicle of your brand, So yeah, that's an awesome example for so many reasons, because you
Yeah.
took it and because it's like proof of how important this work can be. So yeah,
Yeah.
love that. Um, and I mentioned the guidelines first because it really does start there, like setting some rules, some expectations, creating some clarity, and that really helped inform the next step, which was starting to update all of the stuff that we have and create. Our print collateral, our marketing collateral, our
Mhm.
website. And speaking of things that we could spend a whole episode on, that was a huge part of this process, and we really took advantage of the moment by doing a refresh to really enhance our website. Of course, from a look and feel standpoint with the new look and feel, but just the information that was on there too,
Mhm.
and getting to having to show and tell the why we do what we do and how we do what we do and what we do in general. Because the previous version of our website was super high level, rather basic information, and as you're going through this process, doing a bunch of research and asking yourselves questions like, what are our processes and how do we
Mhm.
do what we do and how do clients succeed because we work with them? Um, why not take that information and make
Yeah.
sure that it's translated and put out there on the website, right? So, and full disclosure, lots more work to be done on the website. We've got a lot of great news sections and content and pages and all that, but a lot more to come too. But we've got a really nice framework for that, set us up for the future for sure.
Yeah. It is it's interesting. You know, when you I thought of this as you were mentioning the brand guidelines, it also applies to the website. Uh for a while, we have done we have marketed ourselves, our business on such a part-time basis
Yeah,
because we are so busy, trying to grow the business, helping other people, doing other people's marketing. And this whole process, uh, up to including the website, creating the brand guidelines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, has been an excellent reminder that if we want to be a good example for people, we've got to do the thing. We have to do the
right.
heck out of it.
Yeah,
We want to tell people, you have to be mindful of the content that's on your website. It has to be user friendly. It has to be, optimized for SEO. If people are searching for the thing you do, they damn well better be able to find you.
right. Yeah,
Um, there was just a lot that we weren't do. We can tell you as an expert in our field that you should be doing it, but if the cobbler's children have no shoes,
yeah.
like
Right,
prove that you actually know how to do it. So
right. Yeah.
that is something that excites me that we are uh I believed in us, but
Mhm.
I think we now have much more of an outward facing example of how we do actually know how to do this stuff now that we've
Right,
taken the time,
right.
you know.
Yeah.
So lots of stuff there. Still things to update. Still working
Yes.
on things. I mean, we talk about the website, we talk about the brand guidelines, talk about some of the collateral, um, and even up to this recording right now, when we have an event in just less than a week, we have not even brought up our signage, the interior of
Right.
our building, some of that stuff that we made some decisions about things that are just too darn new
Yeah.
and we just put up and that we will maybe live with for a little while.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, a lot there are things that still need to get done, but we've done a ton.
Yeah. Well, and keeping, business purpose and our current goals in mind, we've updated the stuff that's going to help us, achieve those things as quickly as possible. We could have spent thousands of dollars updating signage and graphics and stuff inside the building, or we could have spent time to update stuff for the, new businesses that we're trying to capture and new clients we're trying to work with and folks that won't be in our building, but they'll be on our website,
Right,
and places
right.
like that. So I think our priorities are where they need to be, and we'll get to that stuff soon. And I imagine as creatives that are really close to the brand, the more and more that we see the brand in our day-to-day use and in stuff that we're sending out to folks and all of that, and then also see some stuff that's leftovers that we haven't done yet,
Hmm.
it'll all probably happen a little sooner than we think it will because
Right.
it'll bug the crap out of us. So,
Probably. Probably.
yeah.
So
But yeah,
that's the
lots more. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm counting off because that's where we're at ongoing work. That's what
Yeah.
that was. The
Yeah.
work continues and moving on to measurement. But what did you
Yeah.
want to say before that?
That's exactly what I was going to shift to was, now that a lot of the initial work is done and as more and more gets done along the way, it'll be important for us to, just like anything else in the marketing world, make sure that we're keeping an eye on what's working, how this is working,
Hmm.
where the changes helped us, where the changes hurt us, and then addressing those things from there, right? So, you know, I don't know how easy it is to measure the effectiveness of a brand refresh for every kind of organization in some sort of universal way. But for us, a clear indicator as a small, aggressive, growing business, a big part of our measurement is going to be awareness and engagement, right? Like how
Hmm.
many more people are visiting our website? How many more people are submitting requests for work? How many clients do we have? All of that kind of stuff, So there's also some pretty easy and logical ways for us to measure like what's been the impact of this stuff. So more to come on that down the road.
Right. Well, and so much of it is um, any of this kind of stuff is about your trajectory and watching your trajectory. You want to uh, not everything that you do, like changing our logo colors. Uh, there is no straight line between changing our logo colors and getting a bunch of new clients.
Right.
But I think, like so many things in marketing, um, there is a certain level of it where if you are doing the right things as a big general sweeping statement, then you are going to grow or you're going to meet, if you're doing the things aligned with the things you want to get accomplished strategically, and then you accomplish the things you wanted to accomplish, you
Yeah.
are probably on the right track
Right.
and you can feel good about a lot of things.
Mhm.
That was some half talk, made up marketing junk. Anyway,
We'll workshop that in a little bit. It's
yeah,
all
we'll
good.
come up with something there. Uh, so we have covered a lot of the rest of these questions that we have here for each other.
We have,
So, what final question for you before we get to what's next? What was your favorite part of the whole process?
yeah. My favorite part for sure was working with the team on those initial visionary steps in the process, creating the vision board together, bringing our personal preferences and ideas to the whole thing. Just for so many reasons. One, because I love our team. Two, I love to see the creativity of our team, particularly the folks that get to do that kind of work every day, our designers and those folks, but also to see people that don't do that stuff every day and to see
Mhm.
their ideas. Because I think I've said this before in workshops that I've presented and speeches that I've given and things like that. Everybody is a creative. Everybody is a designer, whether you think you are or not. And I know that there's a lot of people that wake up in the morning and think that, they don't have a creative bone in their body, but somehow they're matching colors to put an outfit on for the day,
Right.
and
Right.
it takes creativity. It takes an understanding of color sense and principles and things like that. So everybody is creative, and that step in the process where you got to see that come out of folks was by far my favorite part of the process for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. I think the watching the interaction, and we got to experience it when we were first launching the brand. There were much fewer of us, but we got to have that. We're lucky. We got to do this twice and have
Yeah.
that same kind of experience twice where we got to be with people we really, really liked. We got to talk about who we are, who we want to be, what the business is going to look like when it grows up. And we got to do that now. Hopefully we'll get to, do it again with a different group, with more
Right.
people.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, being a part of that and watching the creative team bouncing back and forth on things and like some of the energy was probably my favorite part.
Mhm.
Watching people get excited about things
Yeah.
and watching it solidify this vision that I've had, and I hope that we continue to really push forward with this idea. Talk about everybody being creative. That's why that's why the creative team is called the creative team. All of their titles end with creator. And that was always the intention behind that
Mhm.
our we're a team of people who are creative, they create something. Everything they touch is creation.
Right.
So to solidify that as the brand and to let people see themselves not as order takers, not as I don't know, cogs in the machine. Even though you heard me saying that to someone just last week,
Yeah.
that you are merely a cog in the machine. I don't mean it. But to see themselves as creative people and artists, I think is so important.
Yeah.
So what's next, Ben? More work, I
Yep.
bet.
More work, more updating, more new stuff. And that's, you've heard my favorite part to this point. I'm excited to see the new stuff, new ideas, new products, services,
Hmm.
new ways that we help people that we can tie back to a pretty cool moment in our time where we freshen some things up. Because I think that the work we've done to this point uh, probably already has, but certainly will mean we get to help some more people because of it.
Right. Awesome. Well, that is our time.
That is time.
That is times. We are so excited that you walked through this. We know that we could, as Ben said, do entire episodes on each chunk of this or one on the website. We should probably do one on the website. But we're just always excited when we get to this point in the podcast to say that if you're listening, you continue on this journey with us. We appreciate you for doing that. You can always learn more about us at our website, exclamationqso.com. Check out our blog, check out some of the new stuff out there, and see what we do.
We'll see you there. Thanks, friends, for tuning in. Be awesome. We'll see you next time. The Awesomology podcast is a production of Exclamation Services. Executive producers are myself, Ben Bauer, and my friend, Suzanne Campbell.
Thanks to Kyla Ganther for our show artwork, Scott Sager for booking our guests, and Alex Westerhausen for social media support.